Guys, thank you everybody for being here. We've got a solid fall camp going, really competitive. About to have another practice tonight, going to a scrimmage tomorrow. Start tuning up for week one, and so really excited about the way things are coming together with this 2025 bunch, and we'll open up with questions after that.
So, Coach, what do you like most about this group of players this season?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest strengths that we've got as a team right now is the togetherness that our guys show. I think they've done a really intentional job, both as positions, as units, and then as a team of really coming together. And you can see it with the way we practice. We've got really high intense physical practices, but guys are being smart, taking care of one another, and then just seeing the way that they interact off the field. With new guys, with freshmen, first time being away from home. I think it's great to see our older guys take them under their wings, whether it's showing them around where class is, where do they go get a student ID. And so that's the thing I'm most proud of that I think is a huge strength for our guys right now is just their togetherness.
Coach Rice, how do you prepare the team to stay resilient during close or challenging games this year?
Yeah, I think that with the way that we practice, the situations that we put them in practice, having an idea that wins, losses, scores are irrelevant, that it's go play the next play the next rep. Our guys shouldn't have a feeling of whether a game is close or it's adverse because they've been in those situations. And so I think that it's just continue to hammer home that you've got to play the next play the next rep. You don't know, in the grand scheme of things, every game we talk about on a win or a loss, really comes down to 5 plays. If you flip five plays, then, the outcome of the game probably changes. And our guys have a good understanding that you don't know when those 5 plays are going to come, so all of them matter. And I think that just with the way that you prepare situationally in practice, I think gives our guys good tools in their tool chest to be able to handle those when the season comes.
Coach Rice, what did you learn from your first year of being head coach here at SWOSU to where you are now? Are there any lessons about how you deal with players, about yourself, how you run a football program?
I think the biggest key is how important consistency is. I think that's one thing that our staff, myself, we pride ourselves on, our guys, is just being consistent. I mean, our program, as it sits today, our standards, our operating procedures, the way that we go about things hasn't really changed over the last year. We might work different stuff in practice, work different situations, try to put them in different situations in the weight room. But as far as the standards and the operating procedures of our program, we're pretty consistent. Now our guys know what to expect. And I think that might be the biggest change is, now when we came in here as a new staff, it was all coach driven and outlining stuff. And one of the biggest changes I've seen is that our guys have taken more of that role of implementing and holding people to a standard. But the list for me personally is really long on things that I learned, things that I'm constantly trying to improve. But that's why I'm so fortunate to have the staff that I have and so fortunate to get to coach the guys that we have in our locker room, because it really makes my job pretty easy and pretty simple.
So if you look back to last year, 2 weeks before kickoff, and this year, 2 weeks before kickoff, talk a little bit about where you think you are now versus last year at this time.
Right. I think that this team has their own identity. All we're really focused on right now is what this group can do to be the best that they can be. And so it's not fair for either group to compare, where we're at. I feel good about where we're at as a program. I feel good about the things that we're doing, what this group is doing. But, 2024 SWOSU football isn't the barometer for the 2025 team. The 2025 team is the barometer, and so it's more so looking at it on a day-to-day. Where are we at today versus where we were yesterday? And so tonight at 9:30 when we get done with practice, I'll be able to give you an answer. But that's, I think, kind of the sole focus of this group is to make sure that on a day-to-day basis, we're notching just a little bit better than we were the day before.
Coach Rice, what aspects of your team's culture are you most proud of heading into this season?
Yeah, I think just embodying, both our mission statement, our core values. Since we've been here as a staff, our team GPA hasn't dropped below a 3.0, I think, which is awesome. When you look at, the hours of community service over the last 2 years and making an impact in the community, making an impact on campus, I think is huge. And then when you look at the things that we believe in that are going to win games, and that's their effort, their attitude, and their tempo, it's things that now, again, aren't driven by just the coaching staff. It's things that our players talk about, they check one another on, they encourage one another with. And that's where I would evaluate the biggest change, and where we're really pleased with them embodying that and taking ownership of it.
Coach Rice, last year against Arkansas Tech, you guys take a lead into the half, falter down the stretch. What do you think went wrong in that game, and what do you need to clean up taking on the same opponent again this year? Yeah,
I think, and then going back to, they're gonna show up with a completely different team than what we saw last year. It's all washed. So, our biggest thing is focusing on ourselves, making sure that, in that game particularly, knowing how to finish, to look back and not to have, hindsight or anything like that. But, we throw a pick six, they go up, we go down, score, next kickoff, they muff it, we get the ball back with a chance to go score and turn it over. And so, to me, the biggest takeaway is the evidence of going and finishing out a game. If you're on the upside of that, it's going and closing it out. If you're on the downside of that, it's finding a way to dig yourself out. Because, the issue that I saw with our guys is, we've got the ball, I think it was 4 minutes left to go on their 12-yard line, down 3. And we, worst case scenario, we're going to kick a field goal, tie the game up. Best case scenario, we're going to go score. We fumble and give the ball away, and there was kind of a deflatedness on our sideline. Well, the reality is they turn around and drive the ball 90 yards. Well, in that situation, hey, defense, go out there and get a stop. Get us the ball back. Give us one more shot. Just understanding what it takes to go finish out and win a game. And so taking that into this year, like I said, it's the same logos on the helmets, but it truly is a different opponent, and our sole focus has to be, what are we doing to put ourselves in position now down the stretch to go finish out a game.
Coach, with you today, you have Ethane Hyche and also Zack Roberts. They are anchors for you offensively and defensively. Ethane on offense and Zack on defense. Talk about what they bring to the table day in, day out, week in, week out.
Two guys that I'm extremely proud of. I think situationally, they were put in a tough spot when we got this job. I'd been through multiple head coaches. They had heard the ringer that happens when a new staff comes in. And to be honest, they had choices to make. And the choice that they made was to stay, stick it out, give us a chance to earn their trust. And from really day one of us getting here as a staff, worked their tails off to, test us as a staff, help us earn their trust, and then vice versa. And so very proud of them, both when you talk about consistency, two very, very consistent human beings on and off the field, leaders. When you look around, one of the things we do during fall camp is we have, 15 minutes before position meetings that we go over some topics that are pertinent to leadership. And, when you ask guys, whether it's the running back and tight end room, and I'm sure if I sit in the DB room and asked them, one of the questions was, who do you trust the most on the team? And to hear the running back, tight end room, a lot of those guys rattling off Ethan's name. And then, of course, with Zach, with our leadership council and our ultimate teammate getting voted as the ultimate teammate by his peers, by coaches, I think it speaks volumes to who they are as people. And their play is reflecting that. They're both playing really good football through a couple of weeks of fall camp. And so could not ask for better people to go to battle with than these two guys right here.
Zach, how do you help your teammates stay confident during challenging times in games as a leader?
I would say just, taking it one rep at a time, next play mentality. There's always going to be something that goes wrong in a game. It's a roller coaster, just like life. Like, you always got to be just in the present, ready for that next play. Something bad happens one play, put the next one behind you, because you don't know that next play that you go out there, if you're thinking about that last play, you might miss one of those 5 plays in the game that completely changes. So if you're still stuck on that last play, you're not going to be where we need you to be. And if you're out there on that field, we need you to be in the present and ready for that next play. So it's really just letting our guys know that it's next play mentality, and always encouraging them and picking them up. I'm not big on like bringing guys down. Another thing is like whenever something goes bad, it's like we need you. It's not just you're good. So that's one of the things that we've been working on this year. So.
Zach, how have you grown over the last several years being a veteran Bulldog here to amp up your game?
So for me, it's really just, one of the biggest things with becoming a leader on the team that I've seen is, you got to play. And at this level, you got to play, you got to earn your respect. And then once you get that, then now you got to actually start pouring into other people. And this year, I've been one of those consistent guys that show up, and, I got voted the ultimate teammate and stuff like that. And it's super honoring. And now I've had to take on an even bigger role, and I've had to grow as a person spiritually, relying on the Lord to help me through moments. And yeah, just, I wouldn't take nothing back. I'm here. I'm Bulldog through and through. I bleed blue. Wouldn't want to be anywhere else. Just super excited to get after it this year. Met some of my, closest friends in my life through this program, and some amazing people. So just, all those people have, came together, and they've all been a part of like me and who I am today. So, yeah.
Zach, what personal goals have you set for yourself this season?
So for me, just, previously I used to think about stats, how many, interceptions I want this year, how many tackles I want this year. But learning from about 2 years ago, I got injured. I realized it's just being there for my team, whatever role it is. If I'm a guy that's on the bench, how can I be the best bench player? If I'm a guy that's out there on the field that needs to be a leader, how can I be the best version of that? So whatever role that I'm, handed to, just doing everything I can to fulfill that role the way that the team needs me to fill it. So.
Ethan, what are the biggest changes in the program today as opposed to previous years before Coach Rice and his staff got here? There were some tough years prior to the arrival. Last year there was a significant step forward. What do you think is different?
It's the standard that he's told us, day in and day out. He always says, be the standard, So from first when I got here, there was like finding an identity for my first 3 years. But as soon as he walked through the door, he told us everybody got to be one, we move as one. He talked to us about the mission statement, that graduating, making a positive impact will lead us into winning. So just being the standard, setting the standard, and doing it every day. That's what he's taught us.
Ethan, what do you think about the offensive line this year? Do you feel like that you've got a good line in which for you and your running back teammates to run behind this year?
Yeah, I'm very confident in our offensive line. The way they've gone through fall camp, how tight-knit they are. I like hanging out with them all the time, being around them, talking to the guys. They're really down to earth. And then I feel like me building that relationship with them and our relationship with the running back room translates to that being on the field. So just hanging out in the locker room, translates to them knowing that I'm gonna run hard behind them and make their job easier, and then they make my job easier and open up the holes for me. So just doing the same things over and over again.
Ethan, how are you able to mentally prepare for each game during a long season?
Really just meditating, taking long, deep breaths, grasping it in. I listen to music. I like being around my teammates. They help me as well. Having somebody to talk to is always good, so I like calling my parents, my little brother, my older brother. I like talking to Coach Rice before games too. So really just having a good support system around me gets me ready for a long season.
Zach, Coach Rice has talked a lot about Felipe, Tristan and me before. What would you say about Felipe? How good is he on the field?
Man, I would say Felipe, he's a dog. He's our energy. Like, if you talk about energy on the team, he's the one that brings us up every time in the huddle. Like, he's just always on 100, and I love that guy. He's exactly what we need right there at linebacker. He's always super passionate, and he gets a lot of that from Coach Lucas, just being around Coach Lucas all the time. And so I think, he's a crucial part to our defense. So I look forward to playing alongside him this year. So.
Coach, if we can go back to something real quick, is that, we always talk about quarterback being the big position offensively. It's kind of like point guard in basketball, kind of runs the offense. Maybe without knowing who the starter is this year, can you give us an insight as to what you like out of your, say, top 2 quarterbacks this year, and what is that quarterback battle like right now? And do we have 2 quarterbacks that are pretty similar, or do they separate one from the other?
Well, I think the whole group, the thing that I'm proud of with the whole group is the competitiveness that they show. And there's a lot of different ways to be competitive, and especially at the quarterback position, it's a heightened pressure position. It really is, because so much, of the team goes through the quarterback position. Their play affects the defense, affects special forces, all of that. And so the competitiveness with them is a healthy competitiveness. And, a lot of times you see in quarterback battles is that, they can get kind of rotten and people start to feel some type of way. And I credit, all the quarterbacks in our room is they have an understanding and a relationship where they are trying to help make everyone better, because at some point somebody's going to have to line up and take a snap. And I think all of the quarterbacks have shown a lot of selflessness in that they are all trying to prepare one another so that whoever that person is the most ready for our team. And so that's one of the biggest things I've seen. One of the unique things I think about our quarterback room is that they are all so different. They all possess different skill sets, different personalities that allow them to bring different things to the table, and it makes the evaluation of it fun, really. And so, I'm really excited about that whole group. I think that we've got a lot of guys in that room that can line up and take that first snap and put our team in the best position possible.
One other phase, the kicking game. I know that it looks like we're deep there as far as especially place kicking. We've got a transfer from East Central. We have Ethane Hyche back from last year, who was, I believe, 7 of 8 in field goals last year, as long as 39. Talk a little bit about how they are pushing one another and maybe how that will affect the kicking game this year, especially in close games. Right.
I think that's a very unique position to ask about. It's awesome having Ethane Hyche back. Came in as a freshman to a high intense situation and has handled his business, and you see his growth and maturity. And really, I think that when you meet him, the biggest thing that he brings to the table right now is his swagger and confidence coming into this year. And a lot of that is due to the work that he put in the offseason. Bringing Tommy in to add some competitiveness, Cash Schiller's a freshman. All of those guys really make up a really unique room. McBee, basically as a true sophomore, is really the leader in that room, which is awesome because he's got some credibility built up in the bank from last year. And, we had voluntary workouts in July, and, for kickers, a lot of them are going to stay at home, do work. And McBee made it a point that, no, I'm going to be up here and everything like that, wanted to be around the team. Added in a punter from Australia, Miller Feely, who has a leg on him. And so really excited about the dynamic that those guys bring, because so many hidden yards and momentum swings throughout a game are solely credited back to special forces, special teams, and in the kicking game. And so to have people that that you can count on, and they're not a liability per se, just adds another dynamic where our program feeds into this idea that it is not just offense and defense. There are 3 phases that are going to win every game. And so having guys like that are really the leaders of those units, that are mature, know what it takes to go out and be successful, I think bleeds out. And like these guys have said, when you talk about playing for one another, it feeds into that idea on special teams of how important and vital those are to our success this fall. Guys, I appreciate it. Our home opener is September 4th at 6 p.m. We look forward to seeing everybody in Weatherford. Tailgating will start at 3. I look forward to seeing the whole city of Weatherford coming out, making some noise, cheering on these guys, and looking forward to a great fall. So I appreciate your guys' time. Go Dogs.